morning, everybody. I was hoping I was going to nail that tonight. Didn't really happen, but oh well. At least I got the rhythm right. I kind of fucked it up last night, so at least I had the timing correct. Work in progress. Hey, hope everybody's doing well tonight. It is Wednesday, February 15th. We are studentloanjustice.org. I hope everybody is doing well out there in the world. We are the only, first, largest, and therefore best and worst, but certainly the best, true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. If you're new to the group, welcome. Please tell everyone you know about this group. We are slightly more important than we would appear to be. And just Google us and you can see all the stuff that we've been doing for the past 18 years now. We know this problem cold. And we know what's nonsense and what's not. And 90% of all the stuff you see in the media right now on the student loan issue is absolute nonsense. For those of you with a short attention span, mark my words, whether you would ever or never want to file for bankruptcy, the constitutionally enshrined right of bankruptcy and the stripping of this constitutionally enshrined right lies at the heart of the student loan problem. And always will until these loans are finally gone. And they will be gone. But the question is whether that happens sooner or later. I hope sooner. And if you're with us here tonight, hopefully you do too. So we don't expect everybody to know everything there is to know about student loans. The entire system is Byzantine and broken and confusing by design. It's a feature, not a bug. Chances are, if you're new to the group, the only thing that you really understand about student loans is that you have them and they fucking suck, pardon my French. And so we're glad that you found us. But bankruptcy does lie at the core of this issue. Whether you would ever or never file doesn't matter. When we, the people, get the leverage of bankruptcy back, then and only then will we see meaningful student loan cancellation. Now, if you have $10,000 or less in student loans, then yeah, I think the Supreme Court case coming up about Biden's student loan cancellation by executive order, that concept started on this group, by the way, so you know. Check out our petition, change.org/cancel student loans. We started that petition way before anybody was talking about canceling student loans by executive order. So, most people on our group have way more than $10,000 in student loans. I'm just saying. So honestly, whichever way those Supreme Court cases go, guys, we're kind of screwed either way. It's kind of a heads I win, tail you lose thing. And we lose in both cases. So, I'm not even super concerned about that. When we get the leverage of bankruptcy returned, now hear me out here. President Biden, no president, not President Trump, not Clinton, not any president previous to this, not any president after this, no president wants to preside over the largest wave of bankruptcy filings in U.S. history. No president wants to do that. And almost no presidents actually want to cancel student loans, at least up to this point. Joe Biden certainly never wanted to cancel student loans. Hell, he's more responsible than any sitting, living, elected leader for weaponizing these loans in the first place. I kid you not. It's true. We're a fiercely nonpartisan group, by the way. So, we hate both parties. One is sort of evil. The other one pretends they like us, but they actually don't. So we're we are a fiercely nonpartisan group. We are partisan aware though. So, but I digress. Joe Biden doesn't want to cancel loans. Nobody in Washington, D.C. wants to cancel loans by executive order. Nobody in Washington, D.C. gets paid when loans are canceled by executive order. They hate that. And that's by far and away the cheapest, easiest, and frankly, it's a no actual cost solution for the taxpayers. Taxpayers have made a king's ransom on these loans. They could be canceled tomorrow and the federal government would be about breaking even. Unlike PPP loans, which actually were very expensive. They cost the taxpayers $1 trillion. $1 trillion had to be drawn from the Treasury. $1 trillion was added to our national debt Well, $1.6 trillion nearly in federal student loans could be canceled tomorrow. Not one dime would be added to the national debt. Not one nickel would be taken from the Treasury. So, and the vast majority of the student loan portfolio out there is profit. So the taxpayers have made pretty much all, if not all, of their money back from every dollar that they lent out. So, but I digress. If you have any questions or comments, if I can see them on Facebook or Twitter, I'm happy to throw them out. Tonight, guys, I'm going to turn over maybe kind of a new leaf. I don't think I've ever done this as a discussion point before, but I think it's really important that we all sort of get used to the idea of working with the media. So a little history, when I first started studentloanjustice.org in 2005, 18 freaking years ago, almost 18 years ago this March, next month, what I did, number one, was research. So I educated myself. I learned everything, hopefully, that I could possibly learn about the federal student loan program. And once I have discovered so many terrible, terrible things about it, the first thing I did was took my research to a very prominent reporter at that time, Bethany McLean. So Bethany is the reporter who broke the Enron story, if you remember that story. Very big story. She had written an article about Fannie Mae, which is kind of like Sallie Mae's analogy company, analogous to Fannie Mae. Sallie Mae is Fannie Mae's like sister in student loans, where Fannie Mae was home mortgages. So I contacted Bethany, and that was well before December 2005. In fact, I contacted her in 2004, believe it or not. So I had been doing research on this for quite some time. I gave her my research, and I pestered her and I badgered her in a polite way, in a nice way. And she agreed. I mean, what we had found was just jaw-dropping. And it literally took me over a year of feeding information to Bethany. But eventually we got a cover story published the cover of Forbes magazine in December 2005. So, and that was pretty much, as far as I can tell, almost, if not the first article, maybe one of the first 3, 4, 5 articles ever to be written about how terrible student loans were. I think, anyways, there was the Boston Phoenix, I think, published one story before that, but I'd have to check the dates. Anyways, my point is, back in the bad old days when nobody was writing about student loans, it took a long time and a lot of effort to get reporters interested in the story. But persistence pays, and it certainly paid off with this story. We ended up getting featured, as I said, in Fortune magazine, and that very quickly led to our, probably even to date, after 18 long years, arguably our biggest sort of splash in the media. And this was also Elizabeth Warren's very first splash in the national spotlight, which was a top story on 60 Minutes. And we nailed it, by the way, if I could say so. But lo and behold, guys, here we are 18 years later. The press, the media remains extremely important to us. The media has gotten far worse. Like, just the number of actual, honest, courageous reporters out there willing to tell the truth about student loans, the truth as easily verified by Department of Education data, they're just not around anymore. They started going away in 2008, 9, 10. Financial crisis happened. All of a sudden, all the media became just essentially mouthpieces for Wall Street and the government. And it's frankly gotten very much worse since then. It's just been a long, slow slide where, the good pieces of media that we see out there now on the student loan issue are just incredibly few and far between. It's not to say they don't happen. They do. We got a really good documentary out on the Peacock Network. Oh, and you can see it right now, by the way. It's kind of a big deal. Lone Wolves on the Peacock Network, which tells the story of bankruptcy and student loans in a very, very entertaining way. Very, what's the word? They keep you watching, like it's kind of interesting. Your eyes don't glaze over. But those pieces of good media are quite few and far between. The battle, as I see it right now, guys, more than anything, because the whole issue of student loans has matured so much over the past 18 years, and sort of battle lines have firmed up in many ways and so forth. But we can break the media model that has been artificially thrown upon us. And the artificial media model is like, yeah, Republicans don't want cancellation. Democrats want cancellation. And, is Joe Biden going to cancel any loans? Is he going to cancel 10,000? Is he going to cancel 50,000? That's what it was before last year. And now it's, is the Supreme Court going to allow Biden's cancellation? Well, guys, that's all nonsense. That whole media narrative is complete bullshit. And I'm here to tell you that most people with student loans, I kid you not, are not liberal. Most people with student loans are either Republican or independent. We have truck drivers in our group, many truck drivers, actually. We have people who went to welding schools and bartending academies and, plumbing school and, Voc-Techs and you name it. We can break all of the pre-existing artificial media constructs around this issue with nothing more than the truth. So, we're a working, fighting group, guys. This all comes down to how much effort the individuals, the normal people like you and like me on this group do. And a big, big, big part of that is getting the media to report the truth. That's it. It's so important. And let me say, we have done a tremendous amount of research over the years, including many articles research articles we published, self-published on our Medium platform, and soon more on our Substack platform. But we have broken many stories. In the actual media, we've broken stories on, like I said, Forbes and Fortune, and I used to write for Forbes magazine, by the way. Forbes magazine is just fucking terrible, though. Don't try and pitch stories to Forbes magazine. We've broken stories in the Wall Street Journal. We've broken stories in the Chronicle of Higher Education. We've broken stories on Newsmax, believe it or not. Broken stories on Fox News, interestingly. We've broken stories in Inside Higher Ed. We've written articles in the New York Times and the Los Angeles Times and the Baltimore Sun, Denver Post. NPR, we've been on all the shows, guys. We have broken some of the most important news stories on the higher education, on the student loan issue that have ever been broken. In fact, just last week, we broke a story about how the federal government makes a profit on defaulted loans. And if you go to our Medium platform, you can see that, I think, right at the top. So, guys, we have a wellspring of very true, very well-researched, very easily proven, and almost totally unreported, shocking truths about the student loan issue that I guarantee you, whatever reporter you may find in your local area, they don't know about it. We also have state data, state by state, that shows how over a third of U.S. states, student loan debt is greater than their entire state budget. So, for example, if you live in Indiana, Indiana owes 120% more in student loan debt than the entire state budget of the state of Indiana. That is jaw-dropping. And not one reporter in Indiana has ever reported that story. So, guys, we need you to be ambassadors. We need you to go out and get reporters to write about these truths. And I'm not going to, maybe I should. let me take you through just a few of the unreported headlines that are just dying to be reported in local areas, particularly states, state by states. Student loan justice. Media. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen here just very quickly and show you just a sampling of some of the headlines that we've discovered and are very easily verified, usually with nothing more than publicly available federal data. So hopefully you can see me. This is our Medium page. And if you look at our headlines, we do some opinion pieces too, just because that's what we do. We're trying to get bankruptcy returned to student loans. We're trying to get all federal student loans canceled. So here's one example. 1 in 5 of U.S. adults. So if you see 5 random strangers, if you see 5 random adults at a bus stop or something, chances are one of them is not only has student loans, but is underwater on their student loans. In other words, 1 out of 5 people, adults that you see anywhere at a bar or whatever, they were never going to be able to repay theirs even before the pandemic. So that's a very shocking statistic, and it's very true and easily confirmed. It's actually like 18.5%, but rounding up, so nearly 1 in 5. Fine. And we usually are a little more precise than that, but here's another one. The overwhelming majority of the federal student loan portfolio is profit. Federal government has been making a boatload of interest on the loans, but they've also been making a profit on defaulted student loans, which for every other type of loan are a money loser. Well, it turns out they're a money maker, and a big money maker for the federal government. And the fact that they're canceling almost no loans, I mean, statistically speaking, it's just a tiny percentage of loans are being canceled. It turns out that the large majority of the federal student loan portfolio is profit. So, AKA the loans could be canceled tomorrow and the government would be breaking about even. This is another one that proves clearly that the people who own the majority of student loan debt are in the bottom 80th percentile of earners. And you contrast that to PPP loans, where like 70% of PPP loan borrowers earned $100,000 or more. So we dispel that entire lie very convincingly in this article. Here's the one I was just telling you about earlier, and I should probably pin this one to the top. Oh, I have to unpin something. Whatever, I'll do that later. Here's the one about the government making a profit on defaulted loans. This is the story we're currently trying to push really hard. Very important that some reporter somewhere take a look at our data, easily verify it, and report this fact. So on and on. How student loan cancellation, there's literally no way that canceling student loans can cause inflation. Really. I mean, and you can read the article for yourself to see the argument. But I'm here to tell you guys, our research is top notch, absolute top notch. We are very careful in the claims that we publish. We look extremely hard before making these claims, because believe me, we're a very small group and we're easy to squash. And if we start lying or even exaggerating about stuff, we could get in trouble. So we're very careful about the research we publish. We need you to be our ambassador. We need you to be calling reporters in your local area. And maybe I'm going to share my screen just one more time. Here's a very important story that you need to know about. If you happen to live in any of the southern states, and those are very important states for us politically, any of the southern states, including Texas, take a look at this one. You'll see the map. The red states are being hurt far worse than the coastal elitist states. And nobody knows that. And the data that we publish in this particular report about the 10 worst states, which is the average student loan indebtedness compared to the average earnings in that state, you can see that the entire South is by far and away the worst. Texas is also extremely bad on that measure, but they didn't quite make the top 10. So if you live in any of the southern states, you need to be sending this article around to everyone and anyone who will look at it, who is in the media, whether it's print media, whether it's newspapers, whether it's radio stations, whether it's television stations. You need to get this to them. The people of these states need to know these facts, and they simply will not until we tell them. So, I mean, I can't impress upon you strongly enough how important it is that you help, because if you don't do it, I swear to God, nobody is going to do it. Some of these articles have been sitting on our server for years, and the people of those states need to know what's going on. And they simply will not. They have not. The past year, no reporter has had the courage to report these truths. Here's another one, and this applies to over a third of all U.S. states. Here's another very good one. Over half of all federal student loan borrowers were not paying. They were not making payments on their student loans before the pandemic. Weren't paying. Over half. It's actually closer to 60%. It's like 58.9%. I could have said nearly 2/3. I probably should have said nearly 2/3, but anyways, so here's the one I was talking about. Over a third of U.S. states, student loan debt in those states exceeds their entire state budget. Now, if you're the governor of, let's say, look at all the red states. If you're the governor of Texas, you probably don't even know that federal student loan debt exceeds in Texas exceeds your entire state budget. That is an eye-popping statistic. And I would bet you that Greg Abbott, and we've hit him many times, we've hit him on Twitter, hit his people on Twitter, but I somehow think that Greg Abbott probably doesn't know that student loan debt of Texans exceeds their entire state budget. And they won't know, the way that really makes them respond to these sorts of stories is when somebody in the local media reports these stories. And we got our tiny article on Texas done in San Antonio, but honestly, I don't know that anybody even read the article. So we need help, guys, and we need your help. This problem is not going to get solved by you sitting there eating popcorn, waiting and watching and hoping that somebody else is going to pull your weight for you. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. We have many people on our group that have done a tremendous amount of work to get us as far as we've gotten today. But if you didn't notice, we were screwed last congressional session. We lost. As close as we came, we didn't get it done. Therefore, we lost. And if even 10,000 more people were helping us, we would have gotten it past the finish line. So you can't sit there and expect us to work for you. These are your loans. This is your problem. And you've got to help us. And to everybody else out there who is doing the hard work, and I'm checking your comments right now if I can see them. To everybody out there who's been doing the hard work, I'm not talking to you. You know that I salute you and I applaud you, and you are the unsung heroes. We are the veterans, guys. We're the pioneers who moved this mountain to get where we are today. We had a great bill last session. We actually have a sitting president, which has announced a student loan cancellation by executive order, which started on this group. So we have a lot to be proud of. But guys, this isn't about merit badges and participation trophies. This is about getting it done. And we need more people helping. If you haven't been helping, we need you helping. And as corny as it may sound, the country actually needs you. Because remember, if they can do to other loans what they did to student loans, they will. and they will make medical debt non-dischargeable in bankruptcy. Same thing will happen. They'll make credit cards non-dischargeable in bankruptcy, or they'll erect a ridiculously high hurdle for bankruptcy for all consumer debt. And then we become a slave state. We become vassals to the federal government. And I don't think you want that. I certainly do not. So I'm looking for your comments now. I'm sorry. Hey, Lisa Ansel's with us tonight. Hey, speaking of Lisa Ansel, we're going to be in Southern California on March 1st at 6:30 or 7 p.m. We're giving a talk to University of Southern California and also the Jewish Free Loan Association. So if you happen to live in Southern California, you happen to have free time on March 1st, talk to Lisa Ansel, and you can see her in the comments on our Facebook group, and she can get you in for free. It's kind of a big deal. We're going to be screening the film, the Lone Wolves film, and admission is $35, but Lisa can get you in for free. So, and thank you, by the way, Lisa, for making all that stuff happen. Hey, while I'm doing little announcements, let me just say congratulations to Doug Grossfin out there. Doug was one of the relatively few and rare people to finally get his loans canceled through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. One of the few and the rare, and I say that because, ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Education has no real desire or intentions of actually canceling any loans. They only cancel loans kicking and screaming. So we're glad that one of ours got through. But you know, this whole public service loan forgiveness fiasco only underscores the importance of getting our fucking constitutional rights back, ladies and gentlemen. These loans have been weaponized against us, and we do not have to put up with this shit, guys. We are way stronger than the bad guys. And when you spread the word about this group, and they come, and like you, they help us fight, then we'll be completely unstoppable, guys. We've got over 1.2 million people. We've got around 1.4 million people across all of our platforms, our petition, our email, our Facebook, our Instagram, all our other platforms. We can have this problem solved in a fortnight if people out there actually start helping us. And like I said, a big part of that is getting your local media to do stories on this issue. So rewind this broadcast if you're wondering what you can do. So for you, it's just not going to happen. I'm finally looking for your comments, and I think I'm going to wrap it up here in the next 5 or so minutes, guys. I'm sorry to be we're running a little bit late tonight. But yeah, you yourself, number one, I would say, let me stop sharing. You yourself can very quickly educate yourself about the student loan problem, and you can learn about what's going on in your particular state. And actually, we have some really super slick graphics for each state, which shows how many billions of dollars is owed in each state. And quite frankly, it's astounding. So you can go and educate yourself here. Just read 5 or 10 articles that interest you. You can be a very fine, fit, fierce student loan justice warrior if you read and understand even 3 or 4 of those articles, quite frankly, and they're easy to read. They're not hard anyways, not super hard. But you can be in a position where you can be contacting reporters, television stations, radio stations in your local area and getting them to do stories about how terrible student loan debt is in your state. And I will in the link on our Facebook group, I will publish a link where you can see all the state by state graphics, and you can have a look at your own state, and you can look at any of those reports that I just took you through. At many of those reports, typically with the maps in the image for them, which show stuff state by state, and you can see how terrible your state is. And nobody but you is going to take that to a reporter and get them interested and curious. And hopefully you can stumble on a courageous one who's willing to simply tell the truth. We just saw a national reporter, Seymour Hersh, publish a hard to prove story about a pipeline being blown up, a very controversial story that has geopolitical ramifications. Like, if that reporter has the balls, the stones to tell that truth, surely you can find a higher education reporter somewhere in, Tupelo, Mississippi or something, who's willing to simply look at federal data and then repeat that federal data and point to it and say, wow, Mississippi is actually the worst state in the country in terms of average student loan debt versus average earnings. That's terrible. It's not hard, but it takes persistence. And so you gotta have a little passion for this fight, guys. And I hope that you do, because look how far that we've gotten in even the past 2 years. Astonishing. But we will get no further. We will get not 1 inch further unless and until more people, including you watching me, help us. And it's not hard. And it's, quite frankly, it's fun. I find it cathartic, to tell the truth. We've had many members featured in national newspapers just over the past year. Our people have been featured, where to begin? The New York Times, NPR, CNN, MSNBC, Peacock, as I said, that thing. The Guardian, many times, Fox News, you name it. And all those people all of our members who have been featured, they will tell you it feels good to fight this fight. So take heart, guys. We got this. I'm looking for your comments now, finally. Hey, Joanna Kern says, got it. Florida is one of the worst affected southern states. Affected, yes. Florida is absolutely one of the worst states out there. And there's a lot of older people in Florida. And remember, older people now outnumber younger people with student loans. That's yet another one of the pieces of unbroken research. So media in Florida, investigators, media, radio stations, reporters in Florida should be very interested in reporting on that fact right there. But the fact that, with $120 billion in mostly federal student loan debt hanging around the necks of the people of Florida, and the state budget of Florida being a mere $80 billion, Florida is one of the very, very in fact, I think they're the second worst state on that measure as a percentage. That's ridiculous. Like, you could buy Disney World many times over for the amount of student loan debt that's in the state. It's insane. So, I don't know that I'm going to be able to see all your comments again tonight, guys. I don't know why that is, but sometimes I just can't, and I apologize in advance. But I will get to all your questions later on as I can see them. And, hey, Jackie Abraham in Texas with us. The Texas state budget is like $126 billion. The people of Texas owe $141 billion in mostly federal student loan debt. Like, that's terrible. And almost nobody in Texas even knows that. Like, I blurted it out on nationally on Fox News a while ago, but we need local reporters telling these truths. And ideally, other local news organizations will pick up those stories and run with them. We've got to get fires started, guys. And we are the little match girl to do that. I don't know if that's silly, but no, we are the spark. We are the spark that will get those fires lit. And I hope that you understand how important you are as the guy with the match. You put the matches in your pocket and you walk away, we're fucked. Don't do that. Light the match. Start the fire. Only good things can happen for you, for tens of millions of people in the country who were never going to be able to get out from under this nationally tragic federal abomination of a catastrophically failed lending scam. And it is a scam. And hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps. So I don't want to put too much pressure on you, and you shouldn't feel I don't feel any pressure. But the stakes are high, guys. The stakes are extraordinarily high. And you've got to fight. You've just kind of got to. If you have an ounce of goodness in your whole deal. And and you have even a shred of spine in you, courage, you will help us fight. So, one quick comment from Lisa. Hey, Lisa. Lisa says, I found that a great way to break stories is to respond to articles as letters to the editor. This should be happening at the local level in city-based newspapers. Yeah, that's a great point, Lisa. Writing letters to the editor is very powerful, and our members do that quite frequently. I'd say maybe once a month or something like that. We get one of our members somewhere will get a letter to the editor published. We need to be doing way more than that. Another effective strategy that you might find is that if you read a local story about student loans in your local paper or your local television station, usually it's quite easy to contact the reporter who did that story. So you can contact them and say, hey, I see you just wrote a story in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution about student loan debt in Georgia. Well, did you know that the people of Georgia owe more in student loan debt than the entire state budget? And in fact, the worst in the nation on that measure. 169% of the state budget do the people of Georgia owe in mostly federal student loans. Like, reporters just don't know that stuff, and they won't know until you tell them. So, okay, guys, I think I've said enough, if not too much. I hope if I overwhelmed you, you might rewind this broadcast. It's simple stuff, guys. Once you get into the swing of this fight, it gets way easier, very quickly, and it gets way funner because it's fun to tell the truth. And it's fun to see people learn the truth about this disgusting big government, red state wrecking, unconstitutional, senior wrecking, veteran wrecking, nationally threatening lending scam. Like, how many adjectives can I throw in there? I probably could have thrown in like 12 or 13 more adjectives, but I'll give you guys a break. But it all starts with you guys, and we stand here at the ready. We can find people in your local area who are willing to be interviewed. Maybe you aren't willing to put your name and face in the newspaper, but there are people in your area, and we know them, and we can find them. We can find your reporter, any number of people in your local media area, to be interviewed and put a face to this astonishingly terrible, nationally threatening, as I already said, problem. We can help. We're here to help you in any way we can as you go forward, getting the media to do stories on the student loan catastrophe. And it is a catastrophe. Go to our Medium and see it for yourself. Last thing I'm going to say, guys, very last thing, please donate. Oh, God, if you would please donate, it would help us very much. We survive and thrive on very little funding, guys, like almost nothing compared to what, by any measure, but compared to what our opposition spends against us. We can do this thing on very little funding, guys. We're total grassroots. All of our funding comes in the form of personal gifts, just normal donations from normal people, from you to me. And we can do this on very little funding, guys, but we cannot do it on nothing. We will cease to exist if we can't raise the relative nickels and dimes to literally keep our lights on. So if you've never donated, or if you haven't donated for a while, please kick something in if you would. And I will dial in that link for you right now. Here it is. You can go to our website, click on the donate thing. It's not hard. So I can shut up about it, guys. We're in a very difficult spot right now. I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm quite frankly, I'm very concerned that we may not exist in a month or so at the rate things are going. So if you appreciate what we're doing, if you appreciate all that we're poised to get done, just please help. So I can shut up about it, if you would, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back on Friday. We may or may not have a live stream for you tomorrow. Hang in there. You found the right place. Spread the word. Good luck. Godspeed to you in your efforts, and God bless.